So here's the verse based on what we're sharing in 2 Corinthians 10. He says, and we walk in the flesh, but we do not war after the flesh. So you live your life in this body that feels the way things feel, but that's not the way that's not the struggle. Right? That's what he's telling you. We do not war after the flesh. For the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, and carnal is fleshly, based on comfort level, but mighty through God, principles of pulling down strongholds. And these are the strongholds that need to be pulled down. They cast down imaginations and every high thing that exalteth itself against the knowledge of God, bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. So the battle is for your mind. The battle is for your mind, and God is trying to remove these imaginations, these vain imaginings that you had when you went through this emotional roller coaster of creating your picture of reality. God is trying to take that and cast it down and exalt himself as the picture of reality, and the way that reality really is, so that then, based on his principles, you can take every thought in your mind and make it captive to him, to see if it's in harmony with reality or if you're out here in la la land. And by the way, by him doing that, he's giving you the choice. You can come out of la la land, you can come back to reality. Or you can stay in la la land. It's your choice. And this line moves. You know, I talked about last night about this line moving this way. That the myth goes away. But you know, the line can move this way too. And there's a lot of people locked up in institutions that their line is way over here and they have no grasp of reality whatsoever. They can't function in reality. They literally can't function. And we lock them up and we say they're mentally ill or whatever we call it. But they are so out of touch with reality, they can't function. They're not even safe with themselves. Right? Because they have kept choosing to deny reality, so there is no reality for them to accept. They are so damaged, their equipment, they can't think. But God is trying to get us to move the line this way. And we grow as fast as we are willing to accept the uncomfortable realities that we don't want to face. That's the rate of our growth. And sometimes we get impatient with God. God, why don't you hurry up and fix me? Yeah, and God's saying, yeah, well, excuse me, who's the one holding up the process here? Mm-hmm. Is it God? No. How long does it take God to recreate and make something right? It doesn't take any time at all. But the difference is that you have a will. So if he was just creating this earth, he could just speak and it would be. But you have a will. So he speaks and you have to accept or reject his word and act upon that word so that his word transforms your life. So you and your will and your mind is in the process, which now it takes time to break through to my stubborn, my thick head or my stubborn heart to let him be God. So that's where the process takes time. But God wants this line to move over. And the more this line moves over, the more reality fills, based on the Word of God, less myth, then more I'm in touch with God and in touch with reality, and more in touch with people around me. And I just start functioning principles of love.
That whole thing right there is your will or mine. The reality is his will, the myth is ours.
Well, no, this reality is reality. Yep. Right?
So I'm saying when we pray, we say, thy will be done, not my own.
That's
that
right.
means you're willing to give up the myth.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. In me.
Right.
Right? In earth, in this dirt, as it is in heaven.
Right.
Right. That's right. So yes, the answer to that is yes.
Okay.
But the point is, this is reality. I mean, like for example, most people don't have a problem with washing the dishes or something simple that's real. But when it comes to my relationship with my mom or something else, now I got all the baggage, right? And so now I don't function very well there, right? So this line needs to move over, and that's what God is doing. So here. Okay, so
when we talk about the group of the 144,000, the myth is gone.
That's right.
That becomes, you're part of the 144,000 when that reality is.
That's right, and that's why it describes it, and we'll go there in Revelation 14. That's why it describes them this way, right? So in Revelation 14, I looked and there's a lamb standing on Mount Zion. And with him, and the fact that they're with him, right? Laodicea, Jesus is outside the door knocking to get in. But here, they're with him. There's no door between them, and they're not listening. No, they're with him on Mount Zion, right? There's this numbered group, and they have the Father's name on their forehead, which means that their executive faculties, their higher faculties, their mind that thinks and chooses, that it's functioning.
In line with God.
In harmony with God. God's character,
That's
right?
right.
Is inscribed in their thinking.
Right.
So their mind, they have the mind of Christ.
Right.
He says, I heard the voice from heaven saying, as the voice of mighty waters, the voice of great thunder. I heard the voice of harpers harping with a harp. And they sung as it were a new song before the throne, and before the four beasts and the elders. No man could learn the song except 144,000. Well, why can no man learn the song?
Myth.
Because they can't know reality because they have all this garbage in their head. And it isn't that God doesn't want them to sing the song or to know the song. They don't know it because their mind is not free. They're still a slave. Right?
We can't learn the new song because we've got too much stuff in the way.
That's right. And to learn the new song, the old song needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're holding on to the old song, the new song can't be there. Right? So then he begins to describe them, right? These were redeemed from the earth. These are they which were not defiled with women. So they're pure. And the idea that they've made themselves pure, and this is kind of a wedding scene, right? So the 144,000 are described as this bride who have made herself pure and waiting for her husband to come. And she is not going to, she's not going to get mixed up in any other relationship that will spoil that relationship with the one that she loves. Her bridegroom is coming. And she's dressed in white. She's pure. She's waiting for her bridegroom to come. So she's not capitulating. She's not giving. No way. Nope. I'm not interested in anybody else. I have my bridegroom. I'm going to be pure, right? So they're virgins. The purity. They are they which follow the Lamb wherever he goes. So they're directly connected to Christ. And what happens to Christ is happening to them. And what's going on with Christ is going on with them. And they're intimately connected with him. And he's their interest. He's their focus. They were redeemed from among men, being the first fruits unto God and the Lamb. In their mouth was found no guile. Therefore they are without fault before the throne of God. So there's no lie in their mouth. They're not playing games with reality. They're not trying to speak or decree reality that's not real. They're not sitting there saying, well, I'll never do. No, they don't do that. Because they know they're not God. And if they do that, they're setting themselves up for failure. Satan loves it when we decree reality and say, I'll never do that. Because you know what? He's going to drag you over that line. You say you're never going to do it. He's going to hold you to that, and then he's going to punish you when he drags you over the line and gets you to do the very thing you said you would never do. He's going to grind you into the dirt and make you think that you're worse than worse. I mean, he does everything he can, right? So this group, this is why the Bible describes them this way. Because they have come to the point there's no myth. This is what God is trying to get us to do to prepare for his coming. Does that make sense? So this is the preparation for his coming. If you go to Malachi chapter 3, the Bible describes this process in many ways. You can think, while you're turning, the Laodiceans, they talk about buying from Christ gold tried in the fire, right?
Right.
Well, what is that?
Character.
Yeah, what's gold tried in the fire?
Yeah.
Well, here it is right here.
God's character.
There's gold in the fire, but there's also mess in there. So what does he do to purify that?
Oh,
Well, he
yeah.
puts it in the fire, and what
Burn
happens?
off the dross.
The garbage goes away, and what's left?
gold.
The pureness.
Yeah.
There's this pure gold left. So you're gold, but there's some junk in you. So God has to put you through the fire so that the junk will burn off, and then what will be left will be pure gold.
We see that in the Hebrew children. The junk was burned off, but they came out sportsless.
That's right. And when they were in the
The
fire,
bonds.
their bonds were free,
bonds
right?
were free.
That what bound them was, there's a process, there's a purpose for the painful process. God knows exactly what he's doing, and just because it doesn't feel good doesn't mean he doesn't love you. No, it's exactly the opposite. Lord, those he loves, God chastens those he loves.
Yeah.
Right?
So I love that imagery, though, because what you're saying is everything that we give up is a new freedom.
That's
everything
right.
we give up is a new
That's right.
victory.
That's right. Absolutely. And this is why it's so clear. God never asks us to give up anything that's good for us. Or not good for us. He only asks us to give up those things that are not good for us. He's trying to set us free. So he never asks us to do something or not do something because he's trying to take our fun away or something good from us. That's not true. It's the exact opposite of what Satan told Eve at the garden, at the tree, right? God has our good in mind.
I like that's what it talks about, the fruit of the Spirit. At the end of it all, it says, against such things there are no laws.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's the same thing Titus is going to say. To the pure, all things are pure. Right, when we'll get there, because he talks about those who are not pure, their conscience is defiled, right? They don't, whatever, they're here, is what he's talking about. So in Malachi chapter 3, he says, Behold, I will send my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. So there's a preparation to encounter God that's necessary. What is that preparation? Why is it necessary? That's what we've been talking about, right? When he comes, reality is going to come. So if you're holding on to myth, you're going to be in for a roller coaster ride, right? Your world's going to fall apart. Then he says, and the Lord whom you seek shall suddenly come to his temple, even the messenger of the covenant in whom you delight. Behold, he shall come. So why does he keep talking about him coming and coming and coming? And where's he coming? Is he going in or is he coming out? Oh, okay. No, we'll go there right now. But anyway, then it says, verse 2, here it asks the question, but who may abide the day of his coming? Who shall stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire and like a fuller's soap. He shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. He shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord offerings in righteousness. Do you hear that?
Yeah.
So see, that's this. We are the gold and the silver that he's trying to purify. And the message to prepare for his coming is that you're supposed to go through the process of purification so that when he comes, the myth is gone. And when your world crashes, you don't crash with it.
That's it. That's why we can't wait till the end.
Yeah, that's what we say, right?
No, that's what we know.
Well, that's what we say. That's what we say. You say, I can't wait for Jesus to come. And then you say, well, yeah, then why are you holding on to that mess?
No, but what I'm saying is we can't wait for that time to arrive before we decide to change.
That's
before
right.
we decide to get rid of them.
That's right. That's right. It's too late.
Amen.
Right.
That's right.
That's what I meant.
Because that's right. Because that which we do not overcome will overcome us. See, God has to give us.
Yes.
God has to give us over to the principles by which we have chosen to function.
Amen.
He has to. Now, I can say Jesus all I want. That doesn't change a thing. The choices that I make are based on principles, and the principles that I choose to function by, he has to give me over to those principles. That's why in the judgment, God takes you and your standard of what you think is right and wrong, and he shows you according to your standard how you don't measure up to your own standard, and by your own standard you are condemned.
Yeah.
Because he's showing you, because God is love, I have to give you what you're choosing. So I'm going to give you over to the principle of what you choose. God is so just and so fair. Now he wants to give us over to the principles he wants to give us over to is this. Mm-hmm. But if I'm functioning out here, then he has to give me over to this. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah.
So that's why it's important for us to start going through, examining ourselves. By what principle am I functioning? Well, I don't know. I can't see it. I'm so caught up in the emotional pain of it all. I don't know what's going on. Lord, help me. Well, that's exactly what James says. If anyone doesn't understand what they're going through, then ask God, right? And he does what?
Gives liberally to all.
Gives liberally to all who seek him. And he does it without finding fault, without adding baggage. He's not beating you up. Well, you dummy, look at where you are, you dummy. No, he doesn't do that. He's shining light. Look at where you are. Please, look. Do you see? Do you want to stay there? No. Good. What do we do next? Let's get out of here. Good. Let's grow. Right? That's why James uses the idea of analogy of growing. And he talks about when we're tempted, no one is tempted by God. God isn't the one tempting you. No, you're tempted by your own mess that's in you. And when that desire is conceived, it brings forth sin. And when sin is full grown, it results in death. And he's showing you which camp you're in. So then, well, I don't want to be in that camp. Praise God. Well, what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to accept your provision to come out. And then I'm going to acknowledge that the mess is in me. And that this distorted idea I have of reality is actually my problem. It's not God's. Does that make sense? So you can see here in Malachi, he's telling us about this process. This process is necessary for a group to be ready for the appearing of the covenant, the messenger of the covenant, for Christ to come. Let me share with you, I've been starting to memorize Psalm 31. If you want to go to Psalm 31, it's really interesting. So Psalm 31 is famous for a couple things. First of all, when Jesus was on the cross, remember he said, Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit. Well, this is Psalm 31, verse 5, right? He's trusting totally in his Father. And there's some reasons I've been going through the Psalm, but because I'm trying to trust God, right? I want to stop trusting in anything else. We're going to trust in God. So this is where he starts. In thee, O Lord, do I put my trust. Let me never be put to shame. Deliver me in thy righteousness. And this is cool because whose righteousness is it? It's God's righteousness. It's not ours. So I'm totally trusting in his righteousness. Then he's asking, please bow down your ear to me and deliver me speedily. So where's David in this psalm?
Down low.
He's going through hell.
Yeah.
And he's looking for deliverance. And he's not looking to himself. He's going to put his trust in God. Okay? Then he says, be thou my strong rock and my house of defense to save me. Then he says, thou art my rock and my fortress. Therefore, for thy name's sake, for God's name, God's character, lead me and guide me. So whatever happens, God, I'm going to trust you're in control. Because I don't know the end from the beginning. Then he says, pull me out of the net that they have lived privily for my feet, for thou art my strength. So other people are playing games with me and I can't figure it out, so I'm trusting in you. And then he says, into thy hand I commit my spirit. So David's committing his whole life to God. If I live, then it's God's deal. If I die, it's God's deal. Whatever happens, it's God's deal. I commit myself to him. He's God. Right? Then he says, thou hast redeemed me, O Lord God of truth. Now look at verse 6. He says, I've hated them that regard what?
Useless idols.
Useless idols. What does someone else version say?
Vain idols.
Vain idols. Mine says lying vanities.
Oh, wow.
Okay? So the idea is, what is David hating here? So he says, I've hated them. I'm sorry, verse 6. 31 Psalm, verse 6.
Psalms 31, verse 6.
Yeah. So what he hates is the myth that he finds. And people that function by myth. And by the way, he sees that himself. We're good at seeing things in other people that we're familiar with. Right? We're good at projecting or seeing in other people what we're doing. Right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to catch a thief, other thieves are really good at catching other thieves because they know what's going on. Right? Mm-hmm. And we tend to project our motives onto other people anyway. But here the point is David is now hating people who are regarding lying vanities. Lying vanities is this myth. We created myth. Now notice what he says, but I trust in the Lord. So if I'm trusting in this, I'm not trusting in God. I'm trusting in me. Then notice what he says next. I will be glad and rejoice in thy mercy, for thou hast considered my trouble. And what does he say? What's the last phrase?
You have known my soul in adversities.
Ah. So his soul, his inmost being, his unperceivable parts are made knowable in adversity. See, the trouble, the gold in the fire makes the junk come to the surface.
Manifest.
So it's manifest, it's knowable, right? So God runs me through trouble to show me
The junk.
what's in me,
Shows who I am.
to show me the parts of me that I may not even recognize or understand or see or know. Well, I didn't think I was that way. Oh, well, then God puts you in trouble and then watch what you do. Oh, I didn't think I'd ever do that. Yeah, well, the right situation, right circumstances bring something to the surface that you never believed was there. And if I try to tell you it was there, you say, oh no, that's not me. I'll never do that. Well,
Right.
first of all, the fact that you're saying never tells me right away you're lying. You're lying to yourself. And you have a myth about yourself.
Right.
Because
But
we should
Peter
never
didn't
say
know.
that, right?
But Peter didn't know he was lying to himself or the myth till it happened.
That's right. That's right. But he didn't listen to the word of God, and he spent his time sleeping in Gethsemane when he should have been wrestling with himself, saying, I don't understand it, but please show me. Would God have shown him?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right? But no, I'm fine, so I'm just going to go sleep. I'm okay. I'm ready for Jesus to come. So just let's sleep on. Excuse me. Right? So he says here that it's the adversity that shows him the hidden parts of himself that he can't see. And the next verses, the next 4 or 5 verses, he's going to talk about all the hell that he's been going through and how he's been mistreated by other people, or what the situation is that's causing him all this pain. Mm-hmm. And his conclusion is going to be that, verse 14, but I trust in thee. I said, thou art my God. My times are in thy hand. And God's going to cause his face to shine upon him, and he's going to call upon God, and he's going to be saved. Which means when he goes through the hell that he's going through, he's going to come out the other side not the same person that he was.
Thank goodness for that.
Right? So it's like the 23rd Psalm. Right? He leads me in the paths of righteousness. And the very next phrase,
His name say.
and then the very next phrase is,
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will
right.
fear no evil.
And so where's the path of righteousness for his name's sake? It's through the valley of the shadow of death. Because only when I go through the valley of the shadow of death do I see what's really in me. And by the way, that's how he leads me in the path of righteousness. That's how he restores righteousness in me, by showing me what's wrong with me. Right? Mm-hmm. So when we're going, that's why James says we're supposed to rejoice when we go through hell in our lives. Because that God is saving me. Right?
God can't remove anything from us if we don't know it's there.
That's right.
We have to see it and acknowledge that it's there, and then ask for him to remove it.
That's right.
The
And so-
testing of your faith produces patience. Patience having its perfect work in you. Yep.
That's right. And so the end result is that God's character is formed. And what the battle is for the mind, okay? Because the mind is where I'm thinking and choosing. So the restoration of our mind is the process.
Yeah, it's funny because this verse is just powerful when you with this in context. It's just amazing. Isaiah 26 verse 9 says, "With my soul have I desired thee in the night, yea, with my spirit within me. Will I seek thee early? For when thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world will learn righteousness."
That's right.
And it's just with this in context, it's just like you got to go through the afflictions. You got to go through the purifications. You got to go through through the valley of shadow of death, and then this verse just tops it right off, because we will learn righteousness through the afflictions.
That's right.
And it's just powerful, just when you putting it together. So
And
Good.
if you're under duress, whatever's in you is going to come out. It can't come if there's nothing in you. It can't come out.
Right.
In Daniel, we hear a lot about times. And so it's interesting that he says that, I lost it. My times are in your hand, not my life is in your hand. Can you elaborate on what you...
times are refreshing.
Well, times and seasons deals with, in Daniel
Kingship.
2, he says he sets up kings and takes down kings. Okay. Is he setting up a king and taking down a king? Is that your times?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's taking down a king, which is your selfishness based on your fears and the myth that you've created, which is a lie. He takes this king down and he sets up another king.
We were talking about seasons one time too, I said I don't understand what's going on with me, and I was talking about being in immense pain at one point, and then all of a sudden it would switch over to peace beyond all understanding, and I'm like, whatever, what's going on? And you started laughing and turned away, and I said, what is so funny? And you said, because God knows you need a break when you're growing, that he puts you through the fire for a while, and then he gives you a time of refreshing and so that was when you said seasons, that was seasons.
Any teacher knows that you can only give so much information, then you need to stop. Because anything beyond that, they're not going to learn. You're wasting time, and you're actually confusing the child. You give them so much information, then they need time to process that information and connect the new things that they learn to the old things that they already know. And if you don't understand the season of when they learn and when they can't learn, then you're not a teacher. Shut up and sit down and leave the kid alone, because you're going to destroy them, right? Education isn't just information,
But I
right?
was always very
So it's a-
grateful for the light you shone on that process, because it gave me understanding of what was going on.